Hello, fellow duelists. This is Shadow of the Moon, and today I'm going to be taking you back to 2002, more specifically June of 2002. I'm going to be doing a deck profile on the Critter format, which, if you do not know, I'm going to put a link down below about what the Critter format is and an introduction to it, but I'll give you a brief little summary of it before we get started. Critter format was the set that was right after the so-dubbed Yugi Kaiba format, and was from the beginning of Metal Raiders all the way until the release of Spell Ruler, or back then Magic Ruler, in the later half of 2002. This revolutionized Yu-Gi-Oh! Because of the set that came out. There were so many more fusion monsters, as you can see here, and there was also a lot of just the trap and spells were a lot. There was a lot more upgrades on trap and spells. We now had a trap destruction or spell destruction, Heavy Storm. We had our own negates in Tools of 7, Tools of the Bandit, Magic Jammer, and Solemn Judgment. The card pool just inflated, and just, there were so many more options to be able to play stuff. And I love this format because this is something that if you have a friend, you can stay up all night playing, just maybe to playing to 2, 3, 4 a.m. and stuff. And just being able to have fun with it, because also if you don't have someone who knows how to play, this is a great way to actually introduce them to the game, because this is literally the bare bones, most basic way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just literally just back and forth, trading one-ups, way before synchros, way before exceeds, way before links, pendulums, all that. This is, in my opinion, one of the most fun ways to play, and I think you're really going to enjoy it, because it's a step back in time, and I actually want to get more people actually involved in this. So if you have a way, I would highly recommend, if you haven't yet, start trying to look up the format and start trying to build your own Critter format deck. This is a really underrated format, and it's just a lot of fun to be able to play because of all the stuff that you can do, and being able to think of all the really crazy decks that you can have. You can have Burn, you can have a Black Skull Dragon deck, you can have, obviously, you can have a Harpie deck, which I have right here, a zombie deck, you can have that. There's so many different formats that you can play, and it's just a beatdown, because with beatdown, also, the only two beatdown monsters that were 1800 at the time were Legend and 7-Color Fish. So you had those two options. You had cards like Dark Elf that you had to pay 1,000 life points before attacking, and then Jerigumo, which wasn't very well used that much, or wasn't even really used that much. It was a 2200 level 4, but you had to flip a coin, and if you called it wrong, you had to pay half your life points. So it was a very big price to pay, and it didn't sometimes the negatives outside sometimes outweighed the positive version of it. Also, what was called the power cards, such as Change of Heart, Monster Reborn, Raigeki, Dark Hole, and Pot of Greed, were added on with cards like Heavy Storm, Mirror Force, Solemn Judgment. More stuff was added to it. The reason it's called Critter is because of the format was based around the only two floaters in the set at the time, Sangan and Witch of the Black Forest, which were substantially important. Every single deck that you had, because you had to have these cards to be able to search for things in your deck. Witch of the Black Forest could search out for your Summon Skull, and Sangan could search out cards like Man-Eater Bug, Wall of Illusion, and stuff like that to be able to use on your opponent. Also, your 2000 defense monsters, Sangan could also search for those out too. At the time, mostly it's still beatdown. Summon Skull is still pretty much the strongest card in the format right now, because it's a 2500 one-sack monster, which is very easy to get out. But I'm just showing you that you can actually have a Harpie deck in this. Now, Harpies came out and were released in Metal Raiders, and my deck is going to be a little bit different, because I'm actually going to be focusing a little bit more on the fusion. The fusion monsters in this set were just a lot of fun to actually see, because you had Deep Sea Shark, which was a 1900 fusion, you had Empress Judge, which was a 2100 fusion, and you had Labyrinth Tank, which was 2424, which is a little harder to get out. Also, you had Black Skull Dragon in the set, which was a 3200 beat stick. It was a little bit hard to get out, though, because you had to have two sacrifice monsters in your hand, Red Eyes and Summon Skull, but we'll talk more about that later. So without any further ado, it's going to be a lot of fun. I am really looking forward to this. It's time to show you the deck profile. So first, you're going to have your 3 copies of your Harpie Lady. Obviously, this is your main card in the deck, because this is how you're going to go into your Harpie Lady Sisters. And for the first time, and probably only time, you're going to be running 3 copies of Harpie Lady Sisters. The reason I'm doing this is because, since it is very easy to get out, this is substantially a beat stick. This is going to get over your legends, going to get over the 7-color fishes, and it has 1950 attack. So if you have a equip card with it, or you have a way to buff it up, it'll be able to either easily run over Dark Elf and maybe even Jiraigumo. This was very easy to get out because of it being 1950 and it being with the Elegant Egotist. It's not difficult at all. Okay, since I'm running Punished Eagle in this deck, I'm going to be playing 3 copies of Blue Winged Crown. This was the strongest level 4 Winged Beast type at the time. It has 1600 attack, so it's not too bad. Obviously, if you're not playing Punished Eagle, you can replace this with 7-color fish or Legend to give you a little bit more buff. But I'm going to be playing this because of the Punished Eagle fusion that I have in the deck. Also, since I do have Mountain in here, it can buff it up by 200, making it 1800, so it can actually be as strong as a Legend and 7-color fish, and then beat over your opponents like Battle Ox and Neo the Magic Swordsman. All in all, this is still a very, very good card because of it, being 1600. It's definitely a step up from the Skull Redbird, which was 1550. And then 1 copy of Niwatori. This is strictly in here for, sorry, I don't even know what that is, like a piece of dust or something, I don't know, like, Niwatori is pretty much, it's the weakest kind of monster in this deck, and the only reason it's in here is because of the fusion. I wouldn't recommend throwing this guy in here. He's only 900 attack, and he's a earth monster. And then another reason why this was the critter format was the Cannon Soldier. Cannon Soldier was very, very standard and was pretty much in everyone's deck at the time. Cannon Soldier, you had to pay 500. You could sacrifice a monster on your side of the field to pay 500 life points, or not to pay, to do 500 points of damage. So it had burn damage with it. Now, what made Cannon Soldier more important, and one of the best cards in this format, was by tributing a Witch or a Sangan, you could get that monster effect off and be able to get a monster and search from your deck and add it to your hand. Also, since it was since it didn't say itself, you could also tribute itself to do 500 points of damage. But this was very, very, very important in this format, because this is pretty much how you would be able to go into a lot of your plays and get your Sangans and Witches off the field. At the time, Sangans and Witches were feared because of that, for that ability, because you literally, not only would you do 500 points of damage to them, but honestly, they wouldn't want to attack into Sangan or Witch, because then that would give you basically a free monster, and if it was a Witch, if they had a Summon Skull, that would be a free tribute, because next turn, they're going to play Change of Heart or Soul Exchange, take your monster, and then use it for the tribute. And then we've got just 2 copies of Witch. I would not run more than 2 Witch and 2 Sangan in this format, because in my opinion, it's the perfect balance. These are very, very good cards. These are the reason why it's called the critter format. This is also very deadly to have Sangan and Witch on the field, because if they attack into it, you get to search, like I said, for your own monster. And this was just a evil. These were evil cards, and these were the only floaters at that time. We didn't. The next set was the one that introduced the elemental floaters, such as Flying Kamikiri, Mother Grizzly, UFO Turtle, stuff like that. But this was pretty much all that we had for now, and they were only limited to 2, so you could have up to 2. So definitely a very, very good staple in any deck. And then lastly, for the monsters, we had 2 Magician of Faiths. This was going to allow you to get your power spells back, allow you to get Elegant Egotist back, and be able to go into your plays even more. Alright, so that's it for the monsters. Let's move on to the spells. So we have 3 copies of Elegant Egotist, and every Harpie deck you run 3. This is going to allow you to get your Harpie Lady Sisters on the field for your beat stick. And this is completely optional. I'm playing Mountain to stick with the like Winged Beast archetype, because I am running Blue Winged Crown and I am running the Harpie Lady and Harpie Lady Sisters. This is going to give any Dragon, Thunder, or Winged Beast type an additional 200, so this is actually going to give them a little bit of buff. This is optional. You don't have to have this in here. This is just for my personal preference. Also, for my personal preference, I wanted to use this card like so bad, because I've had this for a long time, and it's just really hard to be able to put it in any kind of deck. Follow Wind would give the monster an additional 300 attack and defense, if it was a Winged Beast type. The only other equipped spell that was out during the time was called Stimpack, which would give you a monster would get an additional 700 attack and defense, or 700 attack, but unfortunately during each of your standby phases you would lose 200 attack. if that was more of a route and an option that you would want to go into, you totally can. This is just my personal preference. I wanted Follow Wind in here because I wanted to have an excuse to use it, because this is technically a Winged Beast deck. And then obviously polymerization. This is going to help you get your Punished Egot on the field. I'm only running one Last Will in here. If you wanted to replace the Follow Wind and the Mountain with 2 more, Last Will was quite possibly one of the best cards in this set, in this format. Last Will made it to where if a monster that you control died that turn, you could, at the end phase of your turn, special summon a monster with 1500 attack or less. What made that really good was, obviously, if you have Cannon Soldier, you could tribute Cannon Soldier or tribute a Sangan and a War Witch or whatever, do your damage, and then play this, and then at the end phase of the turn, you could special summon your another monster. Now you could add another Sangan, another Witch, whatever, and it would make it to where they would have to attack into it. Also, if you had Wall of Illusion was another option that you could put in here for that, because nobody wants to attack over a Wall of Illusion because it has 1800 defense, but this was a very, very powerful card for the time. And then we're going to have the power spells for the Soldier of Villain Light, added in Tribute to the Doomed. This is actually a very good card, discarding to destroy a monster on the field. Dark Hole and Heavy Storm to be able to destroy monsters and to be able to destroy spell and traps. Monster Reborn, obviously. Pot of Greed, because you have to run Pot of Greed in this deck, and any deck for that matter. And then for the traps, we're going to be running 3 copies of Trap Hole. This was very important because you wanted to put pressure on your opponent. If this is going to be mainly used for Summon Skull and Legend, because this is going to be used for anything over 1000 attack if they normal summon it. This is what you needed in the deck, because you need to make sure that you can get field presence. And this set and this format, Critter format, is all about field presence. You want to be able to make sure that you always have one up over your opponent. Don't overplay your hand. Don't overextend everything. Keep it simple. That's why it's, classic Yu-Gi-Oh! And then 2 copies of Solemn Judgment and 7 tools. This is more of a benefit of high risk, high reward. You pay half your life to negate a summon, trap, or spell. And then 7 tools of the Bandit would allow you to pay 1000 to negate a trap. So that's the reason that they're both in here. You could run 3 Solemn Judgments. You could just run 1 and then have a Magic Jammer. I wanted to because, in the event that they do bring out something, I want to be able to stop it. If it's like a Summon Skull or even a Barrel Dragon, if somebody has that. And then you have Mirror Force, because this is what came out in the set with Metal Raiders. This destroys every face-up attack position monster on your opponent's side of the field. And then lastly, it's going to be Metal Morph. Metal Morph was a very nifty and kind of cool tech card, because it would give you an additional 300 attack. And also, if you attacked your opponent, their monster's attack, you would gain attack equal to half of their attack. So if they had like a 2000, you would gain an additional 1000 attack. So it was a good way to really buff up your monsters, and you could, potentially get over a Summon Skull easily, or any of the higher levels, even with equipped with Stimpack. And then lastly, just for the Fusion deck, because I am running the Fusion, it's going to be the 3 Punished Eagles. This is just really cool to be able to use this, because Punished Eagle is a really nifty, it's a 2100 monster, so it's not too bad. And the Fusions in this set were definitely a step up from the old Fusions in Legend of Blue Eyes. Legend of Blue Eyes, the only thing they had was like Guy the Dragon Champion, and it was so hard to bring that thing out because there was no searcher, there wasn't anything. You couldn't get Curse a Dragon to be able to search for it. So it was a lot of fun to be able to actually use Fusions, and the Fusions in here were actually really, really good. Now, granted, I didn't know anybody even at the time that were using the Fusions. Most people were just using the 40 card deck, but I wanted kind of a way to be able to incorporate this guy in the deck as much as I could, even if it was just for 1 polymerization. And this is a very, very good card with 2100. I mean, with Mountain, it makes it a 23. And with Follow Wind, it can actually beat over the Summon Skull. It'll be 2600. And then if you equip it with Metamorph, it becomes even more powerful, essentially being able to go over a Blue Eyes if you play your cards right. Alright, so that's going to be it for this profile. I just want to be able to say thanks for everybody that watched the Progression series. I told you in the last video that I was planning on doing this, and this is something I've actually been working on for about a month or so to be able to get everything together. If you're ever interested in playing Critter format, I would highly recommend you actually do try it out and give it a shot. The cards in here are so cheap because you can pretty much, if you want to upgrade your deck and make it like all hollow, you can. It's not hard to be able to make it all hollow. I mean, some of the stuff can be a little bit expensive, but if you're just wanting like bare bone cards like commons like I did to throw in here, they're pretty much dirt cheap. It's next to nothing. I spent less than $20 on this whole deck, and the most expensive card in here being Last Will. But if you can find copies of it for cheap, yeah, this is definitely a really very affordable format, and it's something that's just a lot of fun for you to play with your friends, get together, you know, maybe play in between rounds if you're going to tournaments and stuff. It's just a lot, you know, it's a lot of fun to be able just to go back and play these older formats. The next format that I'm going to be doing in the next deck profile is actually going to be a Blackwing deck profile for an Edison format, so stay tuned for that. And I have a lot of other videos coming, more unboxings and everything, and more deck profiles as the time goes on and everything. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and with that, see you guys next time.